Hogwarts. Who hasn't collected a Horcrux? Chapter 51. After entering November, the weather is getting colder and colder, the wind is howling, and snowflakes are beginning to fall. Judging from the weather conditions, Hogwarts should be in the Scottish Highlands. But few people know its exact location in the Scottish Highlands, because Hogwarts cannot be mapped. People around are gradually putting on thick clothes, but they still look very cold. This makes William, who is still wearing thin clothes, look a little stand out. Finally one day, Hermione couldn't help but ask him, "William, do you have any magic to keep warm?" "No," William answered truthfully. "Then why are you wearing such thin clothes but don't look cold at all?" Hermione asked in disbelief. William smiled and rubbed Hermione's fluffy hair, then explained, "Maybe it's because I have a good physique and am naturally more cold resistant." 573. "I see, I thought you had some magic to keep warm." Hermione's tone was full of regret and envy. William couldn't bear to see Hermione, whose face was red from the cold. It happened that he was studying alchemy recently, and maybe he could make a magic prop for Hermione to regulate the temperature. But William didn't plan to tell Hermione now, lest he would lose face if he failed, and Hermione would be disappointed. It would be better to wait until he succeeded and give her a surprise directly. In fact, Hermione herself had a magic to keep warm. She used magic to conjure a ball of blue bellflower-like flames, and then put them in a jam jar and carried them with her for warmth. Last time she used this flame to burn Snape's robes. But this way of keeping warm is a bit inconvenient. After all, you have to carry the jam jar with you all the time. And it is also a bit dangerous, so Hermione usually doesn't carry it with her. "I don't often use this magic to keep warm." Speaking of alchemy, Hogwarts actually has an elective course in alchemy. But unlike other elective courses, only 6th and 7th grade students who meet the requirements can choose to take alchemy. It can be seen that the difficulty of alchemy is very great. It is a comprehensive subject that requires knowledge from all aspects. In the wizarding world, the status of alchemists exceeds that of most wizards. Generally speaking, alchemists and potion makers are relatively wealthy because they master core technologies. Not to mention, Nicholas Flamel, the most famous alchemist in the wizarding world and the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone, even masters the technology of the elixir of life. Of course, William's current attainments in alchemy are certainly not comparable to those of the masters, but compared to some ordinary alchemists, the alchemist is no mistake. The core idea of alchemy is very simple, which is to understand, decompose, and then reconstruct such a process. The theoretical basis for this process is the four elements theory. The so-called four elements theory means that everything in the world is composed of four elements, namely, earth, fire, water, and air. And these four elements represent a combination of two of the four basic characteristics. The four basic characteristics are dryness, wetness, coldness, and heat. Earth is dry plus water is wet plus air is wet plus fire is dry plus. Because of these theoretical bases, alchemy also has calculable formulas. But the alchemical formulas were very complicated at the beginning. Later, someone created alchemical symbols, which simplified the complex alchemical formulas to a certain extent. Later, after generations of improvements by alchemists, alchemy became public. The formula was eventually simplified into the alchemy array. The emergence of the alchemy array is a milestone in the development of alchemy history. This is just like the development process of computer programming languages. From the initial machine language, to assembly language, and finally to various high-level languages. What William has to do now is to design the alchemy array, and then he can start the experiment. At that time, according to the results of the experiment, adjust the alchemy array, and then continue the experiment until the experiment is successful. For this purpose, William divided a place in the suitcase and made an alchemy laboratory. Of course, he also asked Hagrid to help buy a lot of experimental equipment, which cost a lot of galleons. With the help of his spare time, William spent more than half a month and finally succeeded in making it. In the alchemy laboratory, William held a lady's watch in his hand. He added a temperature adjustment function to this watch. Wearing this watch will provide a thermal insulation layer covering the whole body. Inside this thermal insulation layer, it will constantly maintain the temperature displayed on the watch. There is a red number 20 on the left side of the dial, which means that the current temperature inside the thermal insulation layer is 20 degrees Celsius. If you want to adjust the temperature, just turn the crown, or as the saying goes, the crown. The numbers on the dial will change as you turn the crown, and at the same time, the temperature provided by the watch will also change. William tried it himself and felt quite satisfied. He believed that if he gave it to Hermione, she would definitely like it. It was another Saturday, and there were fewer people eating breakfast in the restaurant than usual. Hermione sat next to William, eating toast bit by bit, looking absent-minded. William asked with concern, "Hermione, what's wrong with you? Are you worried about something?" Hearing this, Hermione looked at him with some resentment. "What have you been busy with for more than half a month? We haven't been to the library together for a long time." In the past, when William had no classes, he often went to the library with Hermione to read books and do homework. But in the past half-month, he was busy with alchemy experiments. Every time after class, he hurried back to the dormitory without waiting for Hermione to speak. It's no wonder that Hermione looked resentful. William ruffled Hermione's hair and said with a smile, "Keep it a secret for now. I'll take you somewhere later and you'll know." Hermione shook her head in dissatisfaction, shook William's hand off her head, and asked with a pout, "Where is it? Can't you tell me now? Of course it's a good place that few people in Hogwarts know about," William said mysteriously. Hermione became even more curious, but no matter how she asked, William just wouldn't tell her. Helplessly, Hermione had to give up. She ate the toast with gritted teeth, looking as if she had a grudge against toast. When William finished his breakfast leisurely, Hermione immediately put down her cutlery. "I'm done, let's go." Looking at the anxious Hermione, William smiled dotingly. "Okay, follow me." The two left the restaurant and walked upstairs. Hermione looked at the familiar path and asked suspiciously, "You're not going to take me back to Gryffindor Tower, are you?" William was stunned and explained with a smile, "Of course not, it's just that the place we are going to is also on the 8th floor." Hermione was even more confused. 8th floor. Is there something mysterious on the 8th floor? Why don't I know about it? You'll know when you get there. The place William wanted to take her to was the room of requirement on the 8th floor, which he hadn't been to for a long time. William took Hermione all the way to the 8th floor and stopped in front of the tapestry of the troll-beating Barnabas. Hermione looked around and asked in confusion, "William, is this the place you were talking about?" "Hermione, look at you, you're in a hurry again," William said, and began to walk back and forth here, thinking to himself, "I need a room for a date." When he walked past for the third time, a very smooth door appeared on the wall. Hermione stared at it, surprised. "William, is this the place you were talking about?" William looked at her, nodded with a smile and said, "Yes, let's go in." William took the copper handle, opened the door, and walked into a very cozy room. The lighting in the room was soft and warm, as if the afterglow of the setting sun was shining through the gauze curtains into every corner. Carefully selected candles were placed on the small round table, the candlelight dancing, contrasting with the surrounding flowers, and the fragrance of flowers filled the air. Bright red rose petals were scattered on the table and the floor, like a path leading to love. The chairs in the room were beautifully decorated and covered with soft velvet cushions. The color of the cushions echoed the rose petals, giving people a comfortable and intimate feeling. William smacked his lips. It was worthy of being the room of requirement. It really was responsive and lived up to its reputation. William was quite satisfied with the layout of the room. And Hermione was stunned. Why was there such a room in Hogwarts? William brought me here. Was he going to confess his love to me? William closed the door casually, looked at Hermione, smiled and asked her, "Hermione, what do you think of it here?" Hermione calmed down and said, "This place is very nice. It can be seen that the decorator is very attentive." Hermione didn't know whether this place was decorated by William, but she really liked it. "William, you brought me here, do you have something to say to me?" Hermione's face was red when she said this, and she looked very attractive. William pulled her to sit on the chair beside the small round table, and Hermione's face became even redder, and she stared at William with watery eyes. "Hermione, I have something for you," William said directly, and took out a brocade box from his sleeve and handed it to Hermione. Hermione took the brocade box, and William smiled and encouraged, "Open it and take a look." "Okay." Hermione did not hesitate and generously opened the box, which contained the temperature-regulating watch made by William. "What a beautiful watch!" Hermione exclaimed in surprise. "Do you like it?" Hermione nodded. "I like it very much, thank you for your gift, William." "Don't be too quick to thank me, this is not an ordinary watch, it is an alchemical tool. As long as you wear it, you can freely adjust the temperature of your body. You don't have to worry about the winter being too cold or the summer being too hot anymore." Hearing what William said, Hermione jumped up and exclaimed, "William, are you telling the truth?" "Of course it's true, if you don't believe me, try it yourself." William nodded and smiled. Hermione took out the watch and handed it to William with a red face. "Help me wear it." "Okay, I'll help you put it on, Princess, please extend your hand," William said with a smile. Hermione looked at William with tenderness, her white wrist deep in her heart. She was done, she fell in love. William held Hermione's hand and gently put the watch on her. Then he admired it carefully and said with a smile, "It suits you very well." After Hermione put on the watch, she suddenly felt surrounded by warmth, and her whole body was warm. This warm and comfortable feeling made her slightly squint her eyes. "How do you feel?" Looking at Hermione's cute expression, William asked with a smile. "It feels very warm." Hermione opened her eyes and looked at William in front of her. Suddenly, she moved closer to him and kissed him on the face. "William, this watch must be very expensive. Although I like it very much, I can't." As Hermione spoke, she reached out to take off the watch on her wrist. But William didn't wait for her to finish, he held Hermione's hand and said, "Hermione, this is a gift I made for you myself, it's not expensive or not. Didn't you ask me before if I had any magic to keep warm? I said no, but now I have one, which is this watch." Hermione heard William's words and immediately remembered the day half a month ago. She was curious why William was not afraid of the cold and thought that William had some magic to keep warm. Unexpectedly, William took note of this matter from that day on and made this watch for her. This made Hermione's eyes red for a while, and she was very moved. "William, why are you so nice to me?" William rubbed Hermione's hair and said with a smile, "Because I like you." Hearing William's confession, Hermione felt her heart almost jumped into her throat. She was surrounded by a huge sense of happiness and felt warm all over. "William, I like you too, I like you very much." Hermione kissed William on the cheek again. In fact, Hermione didn't have many friends in Gryffindor. She was too strong-willed and most people didn't like her. Except for William, who was better than her in everything and was willing to make friends with her, other people more or less found her difficult to get along with. During this half-semester of contact, Hermione wanted to surpass William at the beginning, and then she cared about him, worried about him, studied with him, and got used to him more and more. William's figure had silently settled in Hermione's heart until today, when the two of them opened up to each other. After confessing their love to each other, the relationship between William and Hermione became closer and more harmonious. Hermione was no longer obsessed with gifts, but looked around happily and asked William some questions about watches. "I have been busy making this watch for the past half-month, so I don't have time to go to the library with you." William said what Hermione mentioned before. "It will be December in a few days, and the weather will only get colder. If I finish this watch as soon as possible, you won't have to endure the cold for another day." Hearing William say this, Hermione was immediately delighted. This boyfriend is so warm, warmer and more considerate than the watch on her wrist. The two of them stayed in the room of requirement for a while, and then left. At their age, some things are difficult to carry out, so William just chatted with Hermione and held hands. Since the two of them became boyfriend and girlfriend, Hermione has been more attached to William. Whether sitting together in class, or going to the library to study and do homework together after class, they are inseparable. Time soon came to mid-December. On this morning, Hogwarts school woke up from a dream and found that it was covered with several feet of snow and the lake was frozen with hard ice. The Weasley twins were punished because they cast a spell on several snowballs, making them chase Quirrell around, and finally the snowballs hit the back of his turban. When William knew about this, he had to sigh at their boldness. If they knew that the mysterious man who was feared by the British magic world was hiding under Quirrell's turban, I wonder if they would dare to do it. As Christmas got closer, everyone became more and more restless, and everyone couldn't wait for the holiday. When Professor McGonagall registered the list of students who would stay in school for the holiday, Harry signed up as expected. Ron and his two twin brothers were also going to stay because the Weasleys were going to Romania to visit Charlie. William and Hermione would definitely not stay in school, as they still missed their families very much. Not to mention, William was planning to take advantage of the holiday to do something. The weather was getting colder and colder. Although there were blazing fires in the Gryffindor common room and the hall, the corridors with drafts were still freezing cold. The window glass of the classroom was also rattling in the biting cold wind. The worst thing was that Professor Snape's classes were all held in the underground classroom. A cloud of white mist formed in front of the students when they exhaled, so they had to get as close to the hot cauldron as possible. Whenever Hermione saw the people around her shivering with cold, her feelings for William surged even more. The gift William had given her before was simply sent to Hermione's heart. After the Quidditch match, Malfoy became more gloomy than before. He was indignant about the Slytherin team's defeat and said that a big-mouthed tree frog would replace Harry as the Seeker in the next match. He wanted to make everyone laugh, but the embarrassing thing was that no one found his words funny. Because everyone still admired Harry. After all, it was amazing that Harry stayed firmly on the broomstick even when it was rushing around. Malfoy was jealous and angry about this, so he turned around and laughed at Harry for not having a decent family. I really feel sorry for those people, they have to stay in Hogwarts for Christmas because their families don't want them. Malfoy's weird skills are far inferior to Snape's, and Harry can't break through at all. Harry was weighing the spine of a lionfish that had been ground into powder, and ignored Malfoy at all. It has to be said that Malfoy might have true love for Harry. Logically, the conflict between Malfoy and Harry was not a big deal, and William not only damaged Malfoy's reputation, but also taught him a lesson. But Malfoy's hostility towards William was far less than his hostility towards Harry. This made William feel strange. Could it be that Malfoy and Harry were born incompatible? After a potions class, when everyone left the dungeon, they found that the corridor in front was blocked tightly by a large fir tree. Seeing the two big feet sticking out from under the tree and hearing the loud wheezing sound, they knew that Hagrid must be behind the tree. Hey, Hagrid, need any help? Ron asked, poking his head through the branches. No, I can do it, thank you, Ron. Hagrid refused with a smile. Can you please move out of the way? Malfoy's cold, drawn-out voice came from behind them. William turned to look at Malfoy, stroking the wand in his hand, and asked, Malfoy, what did you say just now? Seeing that William was about to take action if they disagreed with him, Malfoy instantly backed down. I didn't say anything, huh? Just then, Snape appeared on the stairs. What are you all doing here? Hagrid poked his big shaggy head out from behind a tree and said with a simple smile, Professor Snape, I'm sorry for blocking you all. Snape nodded and said, It's okay, Hagrid, just get out of the way. Okay, Hagrid agreed, dragging the fir tree to make way. Let me help you. William pointed his wand at the fir tree, and it shrank rapidly, and the corridor was vacant all of a sudden. William's move made Snape raise his eyebrows, and he was very surprised. The other students did not react much. After all, they had too little experience and did not know the value of William's move. You know, the larger an object is, the more difficult it is to deform. And William can make a fir tree blocking the corridor become as big as a person, which shows how strong he is. The corridor was vacant, and everyone went their own way. Malfoy snorted coldly, and left quickly with Goyle and Crabbe. Professor Snape also walked away. Before leaving, he looked at William deeply, with an unknown light flashing in his eyes. Hagrid held the small fir tree in one hand, looked at William and said, William, I'll have to trouble you to restore it later. No problem. That's good. Guess what? Come with me to the Great Hall. It's really amazing inside. Hagrid said with a smile. So William and the others followed Hagrid and his fir tree to the Great Hall. Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick were both there, busy putting up Christmas decorations. William helped restore Hagrid's fir tree to its original shape, and Hagrid smiled and thanked him. Ah, Hagrid, bring in the last tree. Put it in the corner over there, okay. Hagrid put the fir tree in the corner over there as Professor McGonagall requested. The hall looked beautiful and magnificent, with holly and mistletoe hanging on the walls, and 12 towering Christmas trees standing all around. Some of these Christmas trees were hung with sparkling icicles, and some were flickering with hundreds of candles. Professor Flitwick was spraying strings of golden bubbles with his wand and hanging them on the branches of the newly moved tree. How many days are left before the holiday? Hagrid suddenly asked. Only 1 day. William replied casually. There's still half an hour before dinner, so we should go to the library. Hermione looked at William, Harry and the others. William waved his hand and said, Hermione, there's no need to rush. We've been looking for it for so many days, so half an hour won't make a difference. Harry and Ron nodded. They were reluctant to leave the hall, as it was so beautiful. Hagrid also tried to persuade them, you're still reading during the holidays. You're working too hard. Oh, we're not reviewing our lessons, Harry explained to Hagrid. Ever since you mentioned Nicholas Flamel, we've been trying to find out who he is. What? Hagrid looked terrified. Listen to me, I told you, stop it, the thing that the big dog is guarding has nothing to do with you. William smiled, we just want to know who Nicholas Flamel is, nothing else. William certainly knew who Nicholas Flamel was, but in order to plan the Mirror of Erised, he pretended not to know. After all, who knows if Harry can still encounter the Mirror of Erised after knowing who Nicholas Flamel is. If not, will Dumbledore still place the Mirror of Erised at the last checkpoint? These things have become unknowns, so it is better to let things return to the original track. At least in this way, William still has an absolute information advantage. Hagrid was very tight-lipped about who Nicholas Flamel was. He didn't reveal a word. Then we'll have to look for it ourselves. William pretended to be helpless and then they went to the library. Hagrid was left standing there alone, looking angry. To be honest, the size of the library's collection alone was daunting. There were tens of thousands of books, thousands of bookshelves, and hundreds of narrow passages. It would undoubtedly be a matter of luck to find Nicholas Flamel's name in this vast sea of books. Hermione took out a list from her pocket, which listed the topics and titles she decided to look for. At the same time, Ron strolled in front of a row of books, aimlessly pulling some books out of the bookshelf. Harry unknowingly came to the banned book area. Unfortunately, to find any banned book, you must have a note signed by a teacher. Harry knew it was impossible for him to get such a note. These books contain powerful dark magic that is never taught in Hogwarts classrooms. Only senior students can read them when studying Advanced Defense Against the Dark Arts. What are you looking for, kid? Nothing, Harry replied. Madam Pants, the librarian, waved a feather duster at him. Then you'd better get out. Let's go, get out. Harry left the library, wishing he had been more flexible and could come up with a few lies. William found a book that interested him and read it carefully. He had always been doing this. And his reason was also very good. What if Nicholas Flamel's information was mixed in some inconspicuous corner? If he didn't read it carefully, he would definitely miss it. Harry waited in the corridor outside to see if William and the others could find anything, but he didn't have much hope. After all, they had been looking for 2 weeks, but they only used their spare time, so it was not surprising that they found nothing. What they needed most was to have a good search without Madam Pants staring at them and breathing on the back of their necks. 5 minutes later, William and the other 2 came out of the library and came to Harry, shaking their heads in disappointment. There was nothing they could do if they didn't find it. They should go to lunch together first. You have to continue searching while William and I are away on vacation, okay? Hermione said, if you find anything, send an owl to tell us. Harry and Ron nodded in agreement. The next morning, William and Hermione took the Hogwarts Express and set off for home. Along the way, they talked and laughed, and the village outside the window became more and more tidy. The train passed through Muggle towns, they ate snacks bought from the salesperson, took off their wizard robes, and put on warm down jackets. Of course they were not cold, but in order to take care of the feelings of their parents and relatives, they still changed into down jackets. After all, there is a kind of cold called your mother thinks you are cold. Finally, the train slowly stopped at 9 and 4 at King's Cross Station. The train was divided into 3 parts. It took them a long time to get out of the platform. A shriveled old guard was standing at the partition wall, only allowing 2 or 3 people to pass at a time. This way, they wouldn't burst out of the solid wall in large numbers at the same time and attract the attention of the Muggles. When they walked out of the station, William and Hermione saw the Grangers. They were standing in front of a car, waiting for Hermione with smiles on their faces. William's butler was also waiting not far away, but William waved to him, and he understood and didn't go up to disturb William. When she got close to the Grangers, Hermione hugged them excitedly. "Mom and Dad, I miss you so much. Darling, Mom and Dad miss you too." Mr. Granger patted Hermione's back gently and said with a smile, "Dear, won't you introduce this gentleman to us?" Hermione then let go of her parents and generously introduced William and the Grangers. "Mom and Dad, this is William, my classmate and good friend at Hogwarts. William, this is my mom and dad." Mr. Granger greeted William with a smile. "Hello William, can I call you that?" "Of course, hello Uncle," William said with a shy smile. "William, thank you for taking care of Hermione at school. The last time she wrote to us, she borrowed your owl, right?" William didn't expect Hermione to tell her parents about this, but he still smiled shyly and said, "You are too polite. Hermione and I are good friends. It is natural for friends to help each other. Hermione has helped me a lot." Hermione pursed her lips a little embarrassedly when she heard William say that. It seemed that she really didn't help William at all except to persuade him not to violate the school rules. Moreover, later on, she never persuaded William not to violate the school rules again. Thinking of this, Hermione felt that she was not a qualified girlfriend and should care more about William in the future. Mr. Granger said happily, "I am relieved that Hermione has a good friend like William. I was worried that she would not be able to make friends at school with her personality." Mrs. Granger obviously knew her daughter's personality. The fact that she could become friends with William showed that William might have a good personality, or he might be very capable, or even both. And from the letter that Hermione sent to the couple, she highly praised William. It can be seen that William must be a very good young man. "Is there anyone coming to pick you up? Do you need someone to take you back?" Mr. Granger asked. "Thank you for your kindness, but don't bother you, the person who picked me up is here. Well, you can come to my house when you are free, or go out with Hermione. We are leaving now." "Okay. Goodbye Hermione, goodbye Uncle and Aunt. Goodbye." Hermione and her parents got in the car and left. William turned and walked towards the butler. "Master, the old lady said that you have been traveling a lot today, so you should rest in London for a night, and it won't be too late to return to the manor tomorrow." The butler took William's suitcase. William knew that his grandmother Deborah loved him, so he didn't say much, just nodded, "Okay." After getting in the car, William couldn't help but ask the butler, "Lawrence, has your grandmother been in good health during the days I was away from home?" "Don't worry, young master. The old lady is in good health. She just misses you very much. As long as grandma is healthy, I can go home to visit her often after I finish this time." William plans to take advantage of the Christmas holiday to go to Borgin and Burke's in Knockturn Alley and get another vanishing cabinet. When the time comes, he can connect the 2 vanishing cabinets and travel back and forth between Hogwarts Castle and his home at any time. Then, he can go home to visit his grandmother often. The next morning, William set out on the road back to the manor. When he returned to the manor, it was already noon, just in time for lunch. In the restaurant, the grandmother took William to ask about his well-being and learn about his life at school. William was always smiling and answered every question of his grandmother seriously without any impatience. The two of them chatted until dinner time, and then the grandmother Deborah let William rest early after dinner. William was not in a hurry to find the vanishing cabinet in Knockturn Alley. He planned to spend Christmas with his grandmother first. In order to welcome Christmas, the manor castle was also well decorated. There were several Christmas trees in the hall, and colorful lights were hung on the Christmas trees, which looked beautiful. In addition, the walls were also covered with colorful ribbons, balloons of various colors, and other decorations. On Christmas Eve, William asked the owl Elise to deliver the Christmas gift he carefully selected for Hermione. The Christmas gift he gave Hermione was his latest new work, an alchemical badge that can automatically defend. As for other people's Christmas gifts, William was more casual, all of them were magic candies and the like. Of course, William must have carefully prepared the gift for his grandmother Deborah. On Christmas Day, William also received a lot of gifts. Grandmother Deborah gave him a scarf, hoping that he could take care of his health. Hermione gave him a pair of small porcelain dolls, but the images of the dolls were cartoon images of William and Hermione. Some other gifts were given by business partners, there was nothing to say. As for Harry and Ron, they didn't give any gifts at all. They were probably having fun at school, how could they remember William? William liked Hermione's gifts very much, and he placed them on his desk. The day after Christmas, William went to the Leaky Cauldron in London. William came to Diagon Alley with ease, and it was still so prosperous and lively. However, this time his target was not Diagon Alley, but Knockturn Alley adjacent to Diagon Alley. Compared with Diagon Alley, Knockturn Alley is a dirty alley filled with various black magic shops. If Diagon Alley is a regular market, then Knockturn Alley is a black market full of all kinds of people. In order to avoid trouble, William dressed himself in a large black robe, and the whole person was shrouded in shadow. He was mysterious and did not look like a good person. William had already asked Hagrid about the location of Knockturn Alley. After all, Hagrid grew up drinking truth serum, and he was very easy to get tricked. William took the wand in his hand in advance. Knockturn Alley was not safe, and he had to be ready to take action at any time. Then he went into a small alley according to Hagrid's information, and then he went through the winding alleys and finally came to Knockturn Alley. What caught William's eyes was a dirty alley, and both sides of the alley seemed to be full of black magic shops. The largest shop in this alley was Borgin and Burke. Opposite it was another shop of considerable size. In the window of this shop, some shrunken heads were displayed in a gloomy way. Across the two storefronts of Borgin and Burke's, a large cage was filled with huge black spiders. In front of a shop selling poison candles hung an old wooden street sign with Knockturn Alley written on it. Seeing this street sign, William knew that he had not gone to the wrong place. However, as soon as he entered Knockturn Alley, William felt that someone was staring at him. He looked in a dark doorway and saw two ragged wizards looking at him and whispering. William didn't need to guess, and knew that they were not holding back anything good. But as long as they didn't come to provoke William, William was too lazy to bother with them. Borgin and Burke's shop was the largest in Knockturn Alley, and it was very obvious and could be seen at a glance. This also saved William the time of searching. He walked towards Borgin and Burke's shop without any hesitation. This black robe was still somewhat useful. At least until William walked to the door of Borgin and Burke's shop, no wizard ran out to trouble him. William pushed the door open and walked into the store. All he saw were some dangerous black magic items. There were withered human hands, blood-stained playing cards, and motionless glass eyeballs. Hideous masks glared down from the wall, various human bones were placed on the counter, and rusty, sharp-toothed instruments hung from the ceiling. And William's target of this trip, the vanishing cabinet, stood openly against the left wall of the store. A hunched man stood behind the counter, stroking his greasy hair with his hand. Welcome, sir. What would you like? My goods are absolutely fair in price. Mr. Borgin said in a tone as greasy as his hair. Of course, this was just a superficial courtesy. There was no politeness in Mr. Borgin's eyes, and there was even some ill intention. After all, how could a man who could open a shop in a place like Knockturn Alley, and the shop was the largest, be a kind businessman? William estimated that it was common for Mr. Borgin to rob his fellow thieves, and he was even more merciless in defrauding his customers. William stepped into the dim shop and went straight to the big black cabinet, which was the disappearing cabinet. He did not hide anything and said directly, Mr. Borgin, name a price, I want this cabinet. Hearing William's straightforward words, Mr. Borgin's face was instantly filled with smiles. Oh my, this customer has good taste. This cabinet is not an ordinary cabinet. It is a very rare disappearing cabinet. Stop talking so much and just tell me the price. William pretended to be impatient and said in a cold tone. Mr. Borgin was not angry when he heard this. He was a guy who only cared about money and not people. As long as he could make money, the attitude of the customer was not important at all. I think the customer really wants it, so I'll give him a reasonable price. How about 2 gold galleons? William almost laughed when he heard the old man's high price. 2,000 gold galleons. Mr. Borgin thinks I'm being taken advantage of. Or are you out of your mind? Although William didn't need this little money, he couldn't agree to it outright, otherwise he didn't know what this guy would do. Hearing William's words, Borgin was not too angry. After all, his price was too high. So, guest, how much do you think is suitable? 200 gold galleons. William immediately reduced the price by 10 times. The guest is really good at joking. How about this? 1,800 galleons. 300 galleons. 1,700 galleons, no less. After some bargaining between William and Borgin, William finally spent 1,000 galleons to buy the vanishing cabinet. Customer, do you need me to deliver the goods to your door? Mr. Borgin asked enthusiastically. But in fact, the greed in his eyes was almost overflowing. In his eyes, William was simply a big fat sheep. No need. William said as he flicked his sleeves, and the huge vanishing cabinet was put into his sleeves. Seeing William's move, Borgin's mind became clearer. After all, the wizarding world still depends on strength. After William took the vanishing cabinet, he turned around and walked out of the store. Take care, guest. Welcome to visit us next time. William came out of Borgin and Burke's shop and had just walked for a while when he noticed someone following him. There are really some people looking for death, and I don't know if they can take a beating. William sneered in his heart, but there was no expression on his face, as if he really didn't know that someone was following him. The ones following William were the two ragged wizards from before. They stared at him for a long time as soon as William entered Nocturne Alley. Now it seems that they are finally going to make a move. No wonder he has become such a mess. After all, how can he get ahead without even a little self-awareness? William did not deliberately lead them to any small road, but just walked towards Diagon Alley on his own. However, the road is full of winding alleys, and there are places where dirty tricks can be used. Sure enough, when William walked to an empty alley, the two wizards who followed him made a move. And the first move was a 487 sneak attack from behind, without any hesitation or mercy. It seems that this is not the first or second time they have done this. Fainted. Expelliarmus. Two people attacked at the same time, one disarming spell and one stunning spell, quickly shot at William's back. Unfortunately, William had been prepared for them. As soon as they started, William put on the armor spell. Seeing that their attack was blocked, the two ragged wizards did not hesitate to attack William again. But would William give them a chance? The answer is no. William, who was still several meters away from the two men just now, appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. With 2 clicks, William twisted their arms holding the wands. And took away their wands in an instant, showing these two guys what physical Expelliarmus means. Then, without waiting for them to hold their arms and wail, William gave them a big fight each, and they fainted instantly. In a flash, William solved the two wizards who were lurking at him, but unfortunately they used fists. This made William himself sigh. Should I specialize in the illumination spell in the future, and then become the melee wizard Gandalf in this world? Putting the wands of the two wizards into his sleeves, William turned around and walked away leisurely. As for the two guys, just lie on the ground. If they are lucky, there may be a kind wizard passing by to save their lives. If they are unlucky, then who knows what will happen. Anyway, the end will not be too good. After all, the cruelty of some dark wizards is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. William turned all the way, through the winding alleys, and finally saw a familiar snow-white marble building in the distance, Gringotts Bank. This is already Diagon Alley. William used the building he took off his wide black robe and stuffed it into his sleeves, avoiding the cover of the building. When he appeared on the street of Diagon Alley again, he looked like an ordinary little wizard, without any unusual features. If there was one unusual feature, it was his exquisite appearance that was the best among all the people in Diagon Alley. Just when William was about to leave Diagon Alley and go home, he unexpectedly ran into Hermione. Hermione ran to William with a look of surprise on her face, and said excitedly, "William, I didn't expect to meet you here. I thought I would see you again after I went to Hogwarts." William didn't expect to meet Hermione, but he noticed that the badge he gave to Hermione was hanging on the girl's chest. It seems that Hermione is very satisfied with this Christmas gift. William thought so in his heart, and said with a cheerful smile on his face, "This may be fate, Hermione. There is an old saying in the East, if we are destined to meet, we will meet even if we are thousands of miles apart. If we are not destined to meet, we will not meet even if we are face to face. The fact that we met here shows that we are destined to be together. Do you think I am right, Hermione?" Hearing William's words, Hermione blushed, but still nodded with a smile. "Well. By the way, William, do you like the Christmas present I gave you?" Hermione asked expectantly. The pair of porcelain dolls she gave to William took her a lot of time and effort. Unlike the gifts she gave to Harry and Ron, the chocolate frogs and BB every flavor beans, which were full of perfunctory and casualness. Otherwise, how could she and William get along so well? Their attitudes towards gift-giving were exactly the same. Facing Hermione's question, William pretended to hesitate, and then replied in a reluctant tone, "Well, I like it very much." Hermione was such a smart girl, of course she could hear the reluctance in William's tone, and her expression suddenly became gloomy. "If you don't like it, you don't have to pretend to like it. Compared with the gift you gave me, my gift is really not worth mentioning, but..." At this point, Hermione looked even sadder. She had put a lot of thought and effort into preparing a gift for William. But all this was in vain. After all, William didn't like the gift at all, which made Hermione feel a little aggrieved and wanted to cry. Seeing that Hermione was about to cry, William gently patted her hair and said with a smile, "Don't be angry, Hermione, I really like your gift. I can see that you put a lot of thought into the gift, and it contains your sincere and deep friendship. Besides, that pair of porcelain dolls represents you and me, how can I not like you?" Hermione laughed, but she still asked doubtfully, "William, is what you said true?" "Of course it's true," William said sincerely. Then he asked Hermione, "Do you like the gift I gave you?" "Humph, I don't like it," Hermione said smugly, obviously seeking revenge. William didn't care at all, but asked Hermione with a smile, "If you don't like it, why do you still wear it?" "I'm happy to do it, isn't it?" Hermione said confidently, but the blush on her face still betrayed her. "Yes, of course. Good to know. Since you don't like it, I won't make it myself next time I give you a gift. I think you might like it better if you buy it from a store." William retreated and pretended to sigh. Hearing this, Hermione hurriedly shouted, "I'm kidding. I like your gift very much. Who told you to bully me on purpose just now? I was just imitating you." Hermione pouted and looked at William eagerly, feeling a little aggrieved. William felt that she looked cute. He ruffled Hermione's hair and said lovingly, "Okay, it's all my fault. I'll apologize to you, okay?" Hermione immediately stopped while she was ahead. The corners of her mouth slightly curled up, and she said generously, "Since you have apologized, William, I must have forgiven you." "Well, thank you Ms. Hermione for your forgiveness, but can you tell me what Ms. Hermione is going to do next?" "I'm going to go to Flourish and Blots to have a look. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to find Nicholas Flamel's records." Hermione hasn't forgotten this yet. Then she asked, "William, what about you? William, what about you?" "Of course I'm with you, is there anything else I can say? Don't you have other things to do? I've finished my work and was planning to go home, but when I met you, Hermione, of course I had to go shopping with you. In that case, let's go." Hermione's voice was full of joy and excitement. She was very happy that William could accompany her shopping and reading. Unlike Hermione, who was thinking about finding information about Nicholas Flamel even after leaving school, Harry and Ron had a lot of fun in school. In particular, Harry and Ron spent a very wonderful Christmas in Hogwarts, and Harry received a very magical gift. It was an invisibility cloak, and a letter was attached. The letter was written in a thin, circle-in-circle font with the following lines. "Your father left this thing to me before he died. It should be returned to you now. Use it well. I sincerely wish you a Merry Christmas." There was no signature on the letter, which confused Harry. He thought it was very strange. Who sent the invisibility cloak? Did it really belong to his father before? But before he could figure it out, he was attracted by the Christmas banquet at Hogwarts and the various wizard lottery bags and firecrackers. When he lay in bed at night, he had time to think about the invisibility cloak and the invisibility cloak. The man who gave him the invisibility cloak. Harry leaned over his bed and pulled out the invisibility cloak from under the bed. He let the fabric flow through his hands, and he felt it was smoother than silk and lighter than light. Use it well, that's what the note said, and Harry felt he had to give it a try. He quietly slid off the bed and wrapped the invisibility cloak around himself. He looked down at his legs, but only saw moonlight and dark shadows. It was a very strange feeling. Suddenly, Harry woke up all of a sudden. Putting on the invisibility cloak, the whole Hogwarts was completely open to him. He stood in the darkness and silence, feeling a surge of excitement in his heart. Wearing this invisibility cloak, he could go anywhere, and Filch would never know. Harry did not wake up Ron, who was sleeping. He thought it was his father's invisibility cloak, and for the first time he wanted to use it alone. Then he wrapped himself in the invisibility cloak, left the dormitory, walked down the stairs, walked through the common room, and crawled through the portrait hole. The fat lady was a little scared when she didn't notice anyone coming out, and asked in a hoarse voice, "Who is it?" Harry said nothing. He walked quickly in the corridor. He had no specific goal, but he remembered the restricted section of the library. Last time he was kicked out of the library by Madame Pants, now he could read as much as he wanted until he found out Nicholas Flamel's identity. The library was dark. Harry felt a little eerie. He lit a lamp. He walked through the rows of bookshelves with the lamp. It looked like a lamp suspended in the air. This scene looked even more creepy. The restricted section was at the back of the library. Harry carefully stepped over the rope and walked in. With the help of the light, he read the titles of the books on the shelves, but there was no clue. Those peeling and faded gold-plated letters spelled out words that Harry could not understand. Harry felt that he was still suffering from his lack of education. If William came here, he would definitely be able to see something. Harry had a heavy filter for William, and always felt that he was knowledgeable and well-informed. In addition to not being able to understand this problem, Harry also saw that some books had no titles at all. There was even a dark stain on one book, which looked like blood and looked very scary. The hair on the back of Harry's neck stood up, and he even felt that there was a faint whisper coming from the book. It seemed that the books knew that there was a person who shouldn't be here. Being here, this might be Harry's hallucination, or maybe not. Harry regretted a little at this moment, regretting not waking Ron up to accompany him. But it was too late to regret now. Harry felt that he had to do something. He carefully placed the lamp on the floor and looked along the bottom of the bookshelf, trying to find a book that looked interesting. Suddenly he saw a large black and silver book. The book was very heavy. He pulled it out with difficulty, placed it on his knees, and let it open by itself. The next moment, a shrill, creepy scream broke the silence. The book was actually screaming. Harry slammed it shut, but the screams did not stop at all. It was a very high-pitched, continuous and deafening tone. He was startled and staggered back several steps, even knocking over the lamp. Fortunately, the lamp went out directly without causing other accidents. Otherwise, it might be that Harry burned down the library and Dumbledore fired him in tears. Of course, there might not be a fire. After all, this is in the wizarding world, and this kind of ordinary flame might not be able to ignite these books. But the matter was not over yet. The screams had alarmed Filch, who was patrolling, and his footsteps were very clear in the corridor. Harry hurriedly put the screaming book back on the bookshelf and ran away. He almost brushed past Filch at the door. He ran down the corridor, the scream of the book still ringing in his ears. He suddenly stopped in front of a tall suit of armor. He was so eager to escape the library that he didn't pay attention to where he was going. Maybe it was because it was too dark, he couldn't recognize where he was. At this moment, Filch's voice came again. "Professor, you said that if anyone wandered around at night, they would report to you immediately. Just now someone was in the library, in the restricted section." Harry felt the blood drain from his face. Filch must know a shortcut, because his voice was getting closer. To his great horror, he heard Snape's voice answering. "Restricted area. Then he can't have gone far, we will definitely catch them." Harry felt as if he was rooted to the ground, not daring to move. Filch and Snape turned around the corner in front, and although they couldn't see him, the corridor was very narrow and they would most likely bump into him. Although the invisibility cloak made him invisible, it did not make his entity disappear. He stepped back step by step, trying not to make any sound. There was a door on the left that opened a crack, which was his only hope. He squeezed in sideways, being careful not to touch the door. God bless, he finally entered the room. Snape and the others didn't seem to notice anything and walked straight past. Harry leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. It was so thrilling just now. He waited until he could no longer hearing the footsteps. Harry finally had the heart to observe the scene in the room. It looked like an abandoned classroom, with many desks and chairs piled against the wall, and an upside-down wastebasket. But unexpectedly, there was something on the wall facing Harry that didn't seem to belong here. It seemed that someone had temporarily put it here because there was no place to put it. It was a very imposing mirror, reaching the ceiling, with a gorgeous golden frame and two claw-shaped feet supporting it. There was a line of words engraved on the top, Baris Stella Ulu 8 Ubica Fru 8 on Boas. Harry finally found the mirror of Arised, and he didn't know if it was fate or Dumbledore's arrangement. Harry saw his parents in the mirror of Arised, which made him focus on this mirror. He went to the abandoned classroom again and again, just to see his parents more. Unlike Harry, an orphan who lacked love since childhood, Ron was not very interested in the mirror of Arised. He also persuaded Harry not to keep looking for the mirror. Unfortunately, Harry did not listen to Ron's advice and went there secretly again by himself. While Harry was obsessed with the mirror of Arised, William was also fascinated by the vanishing cabinet. After he and Hermione left Diagon Alley, they returned to the manor and began to study the vanishing cabinet. What surprised William was that when he brought the other vanishing cabinet back, the system prompt suddenly rang. Ding! The extraordinary 7-star vanishing cabinet is changed to the extraordinary 8-star vanishing cabinet, a pair, and the host is rewarded with +1 magic power, +6400 gold, and master-level spatial magic understanding. William already had a master-level spatial magic understanding, and this time he was directly upgraded to the master level. It can be said that it is a step to heaven. You know, there are many masters in this world, but the Grand Master is the representative of an era. Similarly, the master level skills and the Grand Master level skills are the gap between the Master and the Grand Master. And those who can be called legends or even more outstanding figures who shine through the ages, such as Merlin. Dumbledore can be called a Grand Master, but he definitely cannot reach the level of legend. And the deans such as Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape, let alone, can only be said to have reached the peak of the Master and touched the level of the Grand Master, but they have not become Grand Masters. Therefore, William's master-level understanding of space magic has been advanced to the Grand Master-level understanding of space magic. The improvement is not a little bit, but a natural chasm that an ordinary genius can hardly cross in his lifetime. For William, this is simply a good thing that comes with a pillow when he is sleepy. He just wants to study the vanishing cabinet, a prop involving space magic. In fact, the huge flow network system in the wizarding world is the largest scale space magic. Almost every fireplace in a wizard's home is connected to the flow network, and as long as 2 fireplaces are connected to the flow network, wizards can teleport between the two at will. However, the use of the flow network requires the necessary medium of flow powder. In addition, the flow network is managed by the Flow Network Administration under the Department of Magical Traffic of the Ministry of Magic and is closely monitored by the Ministry of Magic. It can be said that there is no privacy at all. The principle of the vanishing cabinet is similar, except that flow powder is not required. Moreover, it only establishes a channel between 2 vanishing cabinets, which is not as large and interconnected as the flow network. Of course, if William thoroughly studies the vanishing cabinet and can make a vanishing cabinet by himself, he can also build a huge vanishing cabinet network in time, which is not inferior to the flow network. In the few days before school started, William did not have any distractions. He locked himself in the study and studied the vanishing cabinet. 2 identical black cabinets were neatly placed in the alchemy laboratory in the suitcase. William took the detection instrument and scanned them to check if there were any problems. After an inspection, William discovered that one of the vanishing cabinets had some magic circuits destroyed artificially. However, these were all minor problems, and with William's ability, it was easy to repair them. After all, he not only had a master-level understanding of space magic, but also advanced alchemy, and his expertise was very relevant. Malfoy in the original book was able to repair it, so it must be even easier for William. After finding the problem, the next step was to solve these minor problems and then connect them together. William's alchemy laboratory had a complete range of tools, so there was no need to buy anything. He found the tools directly and began to carve and draw on the vanishing cabinet, making repairs. Sometimes he would wave his wand to add some magic. After 2 days of hard work, William finally repaired the vanishing cabinet and opened up the passage between them. Phew. It's done. I can go home anytime from now on. William let out a long sigh with a sincere smile on his face. Tell Grandma this good news, she will definitely be happy. William thought so, and didn't bother to pack up the tools, and turned around and ran out of the suitcase. Grandma, I have good news for you. William couldn't wait to say. Seeing her usually calm grandson so excited, Deborah couldn't help but ask curiously, what's the good news? Grandma, I can come home to accompany you anytime in the future. Hearing William say this, Deborah asked in surprise, William, have you been expelled from the magic school? Well, Grandma, why do you think so? Of course I wasn't expelled from school. William said helplessly. You said you could come home to visit me anytime in the future. How could you come back anytime if you hadn't been fired? Grandma, what are you thinking about? I said I can come back to see you anytime because I got a treasure that allows me to switch between school and home freely. Hearing William's explanation, Deborah exclaimed in surprise, it's amazing that there is such a treasure in the magic world. Grandma, magic is indeed amazing. Would you like to go with me to the magic world? William wanted to take his grandmother to Diagon Alley to satisfy her curiosity. Facing William's invitation, Deborah shook her head and refused. William, Grandma is old, so I won't follow you to the magic world. William felt a little regretful when he heard his grandmother say that, but he smiled and said, Grandma, when I have learned something, I will let you live forever. There is a man called Nicholas Flamel in the magic world. He is a very powerful alchemist. He has made an elixir of immortality and has lived for more than 600 years. Deborah took William's hand and gently stroked his hair with a very loving smile on her face. William, Grandma doesn't want immortality. I just want to see you grow up safely, get married and have children. Grandma will be satisfied. William leaned against his grandmother Deborah and said with a smile, Grandma, don't worry, I will get married as soon as I graduate and give you a bunch of great-grandchildren. Well, I'll wait for that day. Deborah looked at William lovingly. Then she suddenly asked, William, do you have a girl you like? Is she a student of magic school like you? William was very surprised to hear what his grandmother said. Grandma, how do you know this word? Haha, didn't you just say that you would get married as soon as you graduate? That means you must have already decided on your future marriage partner, otherwise how could you be so sure? Well, Grandma, you are really observant and see through everything. William said admiringly. Deborah said with some complacency, of course, Grandma is so old, how can she not see through the mind of a young man like you? When you have time, ask your girlfriend to come to your home and let your grandmother get to know her. Okay, I will invite her. William nodded. Time passed quickly, and it was the beginning of January, and Hogwarts was about to start school. William left a vanishing cabinet at home and placed it in his study. He then locked the door of the study and told the butler not to let anyone in. Although the butler didn't know why, he still remembered William's instructions firmly. Grandma, I'm back to school. I'll be home to visit you in 2 days. William gave his grandmother Deborah a big hug and then smiled and whispered in her ear. Okay, Grandma will wait for you to come home to see me. Deborah patted William on the back, with a hint of reluctance on her face, but she still let go of William. Go, it's getting late. I'm leaving. Goodbye, Grandma. William waved goodbye to his grandmother, then turned and got into a Rolls-Royce Silver Thor. The butler closed the door for William, then turned and got into the driver's seat, skillfully started the car, and drove out of the manor. All the way without stopping, he sent William to the villa in London. William's car is at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. If he leaves from the manor, he will have to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. So, as usual, he came to London a day in advance. Anyway, he had a place to stay in London. The next day, William came to the familiar 9 3/4 station 487 and took the familiar Hogwarts Express. William arrived early, found an empty compartment and sat down, picked up a book and started reading. Not long after, Hermione came over with a suitcase. "William, do you miss me?" "Of course, my grandmother invited you to visit my home," William said with a smile. Hermione immediately sat down next to William and asked, "Your grandmother invited me to visit." "I haven't met your grandmother, why would she invite me?" "Because my grandmother wanted to invite the girl I like, and you are the girl I like, so my grandmother invited you," William said as if it was a matter of course. When Hermione heard William's words, a shy smile suddenly appeared on her face. "Then when we have another holiday, I will come to your house as a guest, okay?" "Okay, I'll pick you up then. Your father asked me to visit you before, so I can go visit you." William and Hermione were discussing visiting each other's homes, and Neville walked in. "Hi, William, Hermione, what are you talking about? I'm inviting Hermione to visit my home after the holidays. Do you want to come, Neville?" William said with a smile. Neville said hesitantly, "I'm afraid I can't." "Well, what a pity." William shrugged. Actually, he was just being polite. Soon it was 10 o'clock and a whistle sounded. The Hogwarts Express started, and white steam gushed out from the locomotive. The scenery outside the window passed by from slow to fast. William continued to chat with Hermione and said a few words to Neville from time to time. It was different from the first time to go to school. Everyone was unfamiliar with it, with novelty and expectation. Now everyone has studied in Hogwarts for a few months and is familiar with the classmates around them. Everyone is more relaxed when getting along with each other. William did not chat with Hermione all the time. The two of them took their books and read them, and occasionally exchange a few words. The Hogwarts Express sped all the way and finally arrived at the school in the evening. As soon as William returned to the dormitory, Harry and Ron told him what happened during Christmas. The invisibility cloak, the mirror of Arised, night walks, Dumbledore's advice. And Harry has been having nightmares recently. He dreamed again and again that his parents disappeared in a sudden green light, and at the same time there was a loud voice laughing weirdly. Ron felt that Dumbledore was right, the magic mirror might drive people crazy. After listening to their story, William just sighed. People will be troubled by the things they couldn't get when they were young all their lives. Psychologist Freud said, people's lives are always making up for the loss of childhood. There is also a saying that goes like this: happy people use their childhood to heal their whole life, while unfortunate people use their whole life to heal their childhood. A gay. Harry's addiction to the mirror of Arised was due to his own suffering. Both his parents died and he was dependent on others. William didn't know how to comfort him, so he could only rely on himself. The next day, when Hermione learned that Harry entered the restricted book area but didn't find who Nicholas Flamel was, she was very disappointed. So they almost gave up the hope of finding Nicholas Flamel in the library. Although Harry still firmly believed that he had seen this name somewhere. William thought Harry had seen the mirror of Arised, and now it was time to find out who Nicholas Flamel was. So on the first day of the semester, William found a book about Nicholas Flamel in the library. It was a book called Basics of Alchemy, which clearly mentioned Nicholas Flamel. After all, Nicholas Flamel's attainments in alchemy could be said to have reached a legendary level. That night, in the Gryffindor common room, William gathered Harry and the other two together. "I have good news for you all. I found out who Nicholas Flamel is." Hearing William's words, Harry asked excitedly, "William, please tell me who Nicholas Flamel is." William turned the book in his hand to the page that recorded Nicholas Flamel. "Read for yourself." Hermione snatched the book from William's hand and read it word for word. Nicholas Flamel, the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. Ancient alchemy involved the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, a magical substance with amazing powers. The stone could turn any metal into pure gold, and it could also create an elixir that would make the drinker immortal. There have been many reports of the Philosopher's Stone over the centuries, but the only remaining piece belongs to the famous alchemist and opera lover Nicholas Flamel. He celebrated his 665th birthday last year and now lives in seclusion in Devon with his wife Perenelle, 658. I guess the three-headed dog must be guarding Nicholas Flamel's Philosopher's Stone. William said. Harry murmured, the Philosopher's Stone, a stone that can turn into gold and make people immortal. No wonder Snape is eyeing it. Everyone would want to get it. No wonder we didn't find Nicholas Flamel in the research on the development of modern wizards. It turns out that he is 665 years old, so he can't be considered modern, right? Ron looked at William. William nodded. That's right. Ron sighed again. The Philosopher's Stone, it's a good thing. If I could get the Philosopher's Stone, I would buy my own Quidditch team. Hearing Ron's thoughts, Hermione also spoke up. No wonder so many people are thinking about the Philosopher's Stone. Indeed, the Philosopher's Stone is a priceless treasure, so it is normal for people to covet it. William himself also covets the Philosopher's Stone. At dinner time the next day, William opened the suitcase and got in while everyone in the dormitory went to have dinner. He left one disappearing cabinet at home and put the other one in the suitcase. Today, he plans to go home to visit his grandmother. After all, he had already made an agreement with her. If he doesn't go back, he is afraid that his grandmother will worry about him. William came to the disappearing cabinet, opened the cabinet, stood in, and then closed the disappearing cabinet from the inside. The next second, William only felt dazed for a moment, and the scene outside the cabinet changed. When he pushed open the cabinet door and came out, what caught his eye was his study at home. It feels much more comfortable than apparition, and it is much less dangerous. Finally, it is not in vain to repair it. William was very satisfied with the performance of the vanishing cabinet. Then he took out the key, opened the door of the study and walked out. Grandma, I'm back. William met his grandmother in the restaurant, and as soon as he saw her he ran over to give her a hug. Well, William, have you had dinner yet? Grandmother Deborah patted his shoulder and asked with a smile. I haven't eaten yet. Although the food in school is okay, I always feel that it is not as delicious as the food at home. Hearing William say this, without Deborah's instructions, the butler Lawrence said consciously, Master, wait a moment, I will ask the kitchen to cook for you. William nodded and ordered, Okay, remember to make my favorite Chinese food. Of course. Lawrence agreed and turned to leave the restaurant. William chatted with his grandmother Deborah for a while, and then the butler brought the servants to serve the dishes. After enjoying a wonderful dinner, William chatted with his grandmother for more than an hour before saying goodbye. Grandma, I have to go to school tomorrow, so I will go back to school today. I will come back to see you when I have time in a few days. Okay, then hurry up. Grandmother Deborah did not try to stop William. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, William returned to Hogwarts again. At this time, the other people in the dormitory had already returned. In order not to be discovered by them, William performed a trick and then got out of the suitcase. With William's strength, Harry and the others could not find any flaws at all. In their field of vision, William walked in from outside the dormitory, not from the suitcase. Harry was talking to Ron about the start of Quidditch training again. And this time, Captain Wood's requirements for the team members were stricter than ever before. Harry said that he had no time to think about the problem of the Philosopher's Stone, and his energy was now used in training. Ron shrugged and said not to worry, the Philosopher's Stone was not so easy to steal. After all, Dumbledore was still in Hogwarts, and he would not let anyone steal the Philosopher's Stone. Moreover, when Ron saw William coming back, he asked William what he thought. William smiled and said, I think Ron is right. Hearing Ron and William say this, Harry probably felt that it was true, so he relaxed and went to sleep. In less than a moment, Harry fell asleep, probably because he was too tired from the training. William and Ron chatted in a low voice for a few more words, and then went to bed. After all, it was getting late. The next morning, William got up at 6 o'clock. In the past, there were fewer animals collected in the suitcase, so he didn't have to spend too much time feeding them. Now that there are more animals, he gets up at 6 o'clock every morning and then gets into the suitcase to feed the animals. He was busy until 7 o'clock, which was exactly the same time he got up before. William felt that with more and more animals in the future, he might not be able to handle it himself, and he would have to find a helper. He currently has two ideas. One is house elves. If he can get a house elf, this problem will be solved. The second is to catch a bad wizard at random, and then use the Imperius Curse to control him and let him take care of these animals. But both ideas have some problems. House elves are not so easy to find. Although there are many house elves in the kitchen of Hogwarts, it does not mean that house elves are very common. You know, even an ancient, pure-blood family like the Weasley family does not have house elves at home. Even those wealthy families generally have only one or two house elves at home. Therefore, it is still very difficult for William to get a house elf. And William is somewhat reluctant to use the Imperious Curse to control wizards. After all, the Imperious Curse is one of the 3 unforgivable curses. If someone finds out that William uses it on wizards, the result will definitely be very troublesome. Therefore, William is wondering if he can use alchemy to make some alchemical puppets to help him deal with these problems. However, it is not so easy to make an alchemical puppet. In short, William is indeed a little distressed now, although the problem has not reached that point yet. But there is a saying, preparation is the key to success, and lack of preparation leads to failure. Only with preparation can things be accomplished, and without preparation, things are mostly wasted. At 7 o'clock, William fed the animals in the suitcase, then got out and locked the suitcase. He didn't want to be like Newt, letting the animals in the suitcase sneak out and cause a lot of trouble. William woke up his roommates and went to wash up first. He and Hermione made an appointment to meet in the common room at 7:30, and then go to the hall for breakfast together. This has become his and Hermione's daily routine, and it is like this every day. William sat with Hermione to eat breakfast as usual. At this moment, a large number of owls flew in, and the mail arrived. Iris fluttered her wings and landed on William's shoulder, throwing a note on him. William ignored Iris because Hermione had already taken food to feed it. Iris had helped Hermione deliver letters many times before, and Hermione liked it very much. William picked up the note, which was written by Hagrid in a sloppy handwriting. Dear William, do you remember the Greek guy mentioned last time? I have already contacted him. If you have time, please ask Iris to give me a reply. I am waiting for you to visit. Hagrid. After William saw Hagrid's note, he wanted to go to Hagrid to discuss it in detail. The Greek guy Hagrid was talking about was the one who sold him the 3-headed dog and the man-headed Sphinx and Manticore. William suspected that this guy was an illegal businessman who specialized in smuggling magical animals. But this had nothing to do with William. He just wanted to buy some magical creatures from this guy. Judging from his previous transactions with Hagrid, this guy was still very powerful. The 3-headed dog and the man-headed Sphinx and Manticore were not ordinary magical animals. They were both dangerous and very rare magical animals. Since he could sell these 2 magical creatures, he might be able to sell other rare and dangerous magical creatures. William took out his quill and parchment and quickly wrote a letter to Hagrid. William said that he would go to see him at 4 o'clock after class in the afternoon and they would talk in detail then. Then he asked Iris to deliver the letter. After finally making it to the afternoon, William ran out of the castle as soon as class was over. Hagrid lived in a cabin on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. William left the castle, crossed the grass, and ran all the way to the cabin. There was a crossbow and a pair of rubber overshoes in front of the cabin. When William knocked on the door, he heard a few barking sounds from inside the house. It was Hagrid's huge black hound, Fang. Stay back, Fang, stay back. Hagrid's voice sounded inside, and then Hagrid opened the door, revealing his big bearded face. Fang the hound quickly jumped out of the door and circled around William happily. William patted its head, and it immediately calmed down, squatting beside William and rubbing his clothes. William, come on in. Hagrid smiled and let William in. The cabin was very warm, with a blazing fire in the fireplace. Hagrid made tea for 503 William and brought him sandwiches. William was a little surprised that it wasn't rock cakes. When he came as a guest before, Hagrid always treated him with rock cakes, and he thought Hagrid only knew how to make rock cakes. But none of this mattered. The most important thing was the Greeks. William went straight to the point and said, Hagrid, stop busying yourself, and tell me about the Greeks. Seeing that William was so anxious, Hagrid didn't keep him in suspense and went straight to the point. William, here's what happened. A few days ago during the Christmas holidays, I went to the Hog's Head in Hogsmeade for a drink, and there I ran into that Greek guy. Didn't you ask me about him before, so I said hello to him and asked for his contact information. William asked doubtfully. He gave you his contact information so easily. Hagrid scratched his head, smiled and said, "We have traded twice before, so we are old acquaintances. I said I wanted to continue trading with him in the future, so he gave me his contact information." William looked at Hagrid's silly expression and knew without thinking that the Greek guy probably thought that Hagrid was honest and would not pose any threat to him. That's why he left his contact information so easily. It seems that sometimes being a little silly can make others let down their guard and accept them better. William didn't dwell on these things, but asked Hagrid, "Hagrid, does the Greek guy have any animals to sell recently?" "I don't know about that. I was so busy drinking with him last time that I didn't ask him this question," Hagrid said awkwardly, looking very embarrassed. "Well, don't you have his contact information? Go ask him if there are any magical animals, I can buy them." Hagrid nodded. "Okay, I will write to him and ask, but William, do you have that much money? The magical animals in the Greek guy's hands are all rare and precious, and they are not cheap." William looked at the pile of gold galleons in his system space, which were almost piled up into a small mountain. Could he be without money? "Hagrid, don't worry, I have enough money." Hagrid still didn't believe it. "William, I remember you are a child of a Muggle family. You didn't inherit a large inheritance like Harry, how could you have so many gold galleons? If you don't have money, the Greek guy won't sell you anything. He might even think you're playing a trick on him and won't trade with you again." Looking at Hagrid's expression, William thought he had to think he had no money, right? Well, he won't pretend anymore. He had planned to get along with everyone as an ordinary person, but he was actually questioned about having no money, so he, Duke William Cavendish, won't pretend anymore. "Hagrid, you know I am from a Muggle family, then do you know my identity in the Muggle world?" William looked at Hagrid and asked softly. Hagrid grinned. "William, I don't know much about the Muggle world, what is your identity?" Wizards always have a contemptuous, even contemptuous attitude towards Muggles. Even a wise man like Dumbledore, even if he doesn't show it at ordinary times, is still like this in his bones. Not to mention Hagrid, this fool, his contempt for Muggles is very obvious. From his attitude towards Harry's aunt's family, to his complaints about how Muggles can do things without magic, etc. All of these can show his contempt for Muggles. Just like now, he actually doesn't care about William's identity in the Muggle world. He just cares about William, the wizard, so he patiently asked this question. William doesn't care about his attitude. After all, Hagrid is his friend, and a friend who is very helpful to him. "Hagrid, I am actually a duke, the 13th Duke of Devonshire. Come to think of it, my manor is actually a bit small, only half the size of Hogwarts School. The family's assets are only counted in billions, which is only a few hundred tons if converted into gold." Hagrid was stunned when William said this. "Is what you said still human? Only half the size. Only a few hundred tons." William wanted to say something, but Hagrid stopped him and said, "William, stop talking, I believe you have money. I'd better show it to you, lest you think I'm lying." William flicked his sleeves, and golden light, accompanied by a rustling sound, flowed out from his sleeves. Fistfuls of gold galleons fell into Hagrid's cabin, and for a moment the entire ground was covered with gold galleons. This move is called spending money like water. Hagrid hurriedly grabbed William's sleeve, breathing rapidly and said, "William, put it away quickly, put it away quickly." Hagrid looked at the dazzling gold galleons and felt that he could hardly control himself. "Hagrid, why don't you check if these galleons are real? What if these galleons are made by magic?" William looked at Hagrid with a mocking look. Hagrid waved his hands hurriedly. No, these must be real gold galleons, there is no mistake." "Then I'll put it away. You should collect them quickly." At Hagrid's urging, William waved his sleeves again, and the gold galleons on the ground flowed back into William's sleeves. With his continuous practice and improvement, this trick of hiding the world in his sleeves became more and more fashionable. 0.4 After a while, William collected all the gold galleons. After all, he did have a lot of gold galleons. Hagrid then asked, "William, how many gold galleons did you get from Gringotts? I think it's more than the Potter family inheritance that Harry inherited." William replied casually, "Not much, maybe 50,000 or 60,000. 50 or 60,000 is not much." Hagrid couldn't help but smack his lips. This Duke of Devon knows how to talk. Today, Hagrid finally saw what a rich man is and what Versailles is. William also restrained himself and stopped teasing Hagrid. Hagrid, please contact that Greek guy as soon as possible. I can buy any magical creatures he has. Okay, I'll contact him as soon as possible. Hagrid no longer had any doubts about William's financial resources, so he agreed very happily. As winter turned to spring, the fluttering snowflakes turned into soft rain. Wood became more strict in Quidditch training, and the Weasley twins complained that he was becoming a training maniac. But Harry stood by Wood. Because if they won the next game against Hufflepuff, they would be able to beat Slytherin in the House Cup. This would be the first time in 7 years. Of course, in addition to hoping for a win, Harry also found that when he was exhausted after training, he had fewer nightmares. Later, during a particularly wet and muddy training session, Wood gave the team some bad news. He had just lost his temper with the Weasley twins because they kept dive-bombing each other and pretending to fall off their broomsticks. Can you please stop fooling around? Wood shouted angrily, this will definitely make us lose the game. This time Snape is the referee. He will definitely find every possible excuse to deduct points from the Gryffindor team. George Weasley really fell off his broom when he heard the news. Snape is referee. He asked 06 while spitting mud from his mouth. When has he ever been a referee for a Quidditch match? If we have any chance of beating Slytherin, he will not judge fairly. The other players also landed beside George, complaining. This is not my fault. We can only ensure that we abide by the rules during the game, and Snape will have no excuse to find fault with us. Although Wood said this, the helplessness and bitterness on his face were very obvious. After all, Snape has been targeting Gryffindor for a long time, and everyone knows it. This is very correct, Harry thought. But he also had a reason, which was that he didn't want Snape to get close to him during the game. After the training, the other team members were still dawdling and chatting, but Harry went straight to the Gryffindor common room. He found William and Ron playing chess there, and Hermione was sitting next to William, helping him with strategies. Maybe it's more appropriate to call it making trouble. After all, William's chess skills are far from Hermione's. Even Ron lost more than he won when playing chess with William. At this time, the situation on the chessboard was very unfavorable to him. Seeing Harry sitting next to him, Ron hurriedly said, "Don't talk to me yet, I need to think about it seriously." But Hermione saw Harry's face and asked, "What's wrong with you? What happened? You look terrible." Harry lowered his voice, not wanting others to hear. The referee of this Quidditch match is Snape, and I suspect he has bad intentions. Hermione heard the news and immediately said to him, "Don't participate in the game. Just say you are sick." Ron also said, "Pretend to break your leg." Hermione suggested, "I really broke my leg." Ron said even more ruthlessly, "I can't do this. There is no substitute seeker in the team. If I withdraw, Gryffindor will not be able to play." Harry rejected their proposal. William guessed that it might be because of the accident that happened during Harry's last game that Snape suddenly wanted to be a referee this time. He might think that as a referee, he can rescue Harry in time when he encounters an accident. Although Snape targets Harry all day long, when Harry is in danger, he is more anxious than anyone else. Thinking of this, William began to comfort Harry and the others. "You are too pessimistic. I don't think Snape will openly attack Harry in broad daylight and in full view of everyone." Hearing what William said, Ron retorted excitedly, "But he did attack Harry last time. Last time he was hiding in the dark." "Never mind. If you are worried about Snape, I can go in for Harry. I think my flying skills should be no worse than Harry's." William did not argue with Ron. The prejudice in people's hearts is not so easy to change. Snape targeted Harry too many times. If someone said that Snape was protecting Harry, 98% of the people in Hogwarts would not believe it. It was no surprise that Ron had this idea. Ron clapped his hands excitedly for William stepping forward. "Good idea, but you are not in the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Can you participate in the competition? Do you want to go to Professor McGonagall and ask her to approve you to join the team?" Hermione also said. Harry shook his head and said sincerely, "Thank you, William, but no thanks, I have to participate in the competition." If I quit, the Slytherins would think I was scared and didn't dare to face Snape, and they would be even more proud. Hearing Harry say this, William smiled more sincerely. Well done, Harry, this is a brave Gryffindor, with the courage to face all difficulties. Ron sighed. Although he understood Harry's decision, he was not optimistic about it. Harry, I wish you good luck then, and I hope we don't have to carry you off the field. At this moment, Neville fell into the common room. No one could guess how he got out of the portrait hole because his legs were stuck together. William could see at a glance that he was under a leg-locking spell. He must have hopped all the way up to the Gryffindor tower like a rabbit. Most people in the common room laughed, but William and Hermione didn't laugh. William cast a counteracting spell on him, and Neville's legs suddenly spread apart. He stood up, trembling all over, and Hermione came forward to lead him over and sat with William and the others. What's going on? Hermione asked. Malfoy, Neville said in a trembling voice, I ran into him outside the library and he said he'd been looking for someone to practice the spell on. Go find Professor McGonagall. Hermione urged Neville, sue him. Neville shook his head. I don't want to cause any more trouble. He muttered vaguely. Ron encouraged him, you must face him bravely, Neville. He has always been domineering. There is no reason for us to give in to him and let him succeed easily. You don't have to tell me that I'm too timid and don't deserve to be in Gryffindor. Malfoy has already told me that. Neville said with a sob. Harry reached into his robe pocket and took out a chocolate frog, the last one in the box that Hermione gave him at Christmas. Harry handed it to Neville, who looked like he was about to cry. Harry comforted him. You are better than 12 Malfoys. The Sorting Hat chose you into Gryffindor, didn't it? Where is Malfoy? In that nasty Slytherin. Neville unwrapped the chocolate frog, his lips twitching into a weak smile. Thank you, Harry. I want to go to bed. Do you want some cards? You collect cards, don't you? Looking at Neville's expression, William knew that he had no confidence in himself. After all, there was still a big gap between his grades and Malfoy's. Neville, don't lose heart, I will teach you some very practical magic, and then it will be easy to deal with Malfoy. William patted Neville on the shoulder and said with a smile. Neville's eyes suddenly lit up, but soon dimmed. William, I'm too stupid. I'm afraid I can't learn the magic you teach me. Let's just forget it. Don't worry, I will definitely teach you. Neville nodded with emotion when he heard William's words. Well, I'll go back to the dormitory first. After Neville left, Harry looked at the picture of the famous wizard. Dumbledore again, he said, I was. He suddenly gasped, stared at the back of the picture, then looked up at William and the others. I told you I had seen Nicholas Flamel's name somewhere before. I saw it on the train coming here. Listen to this. Dumbledore's well-known contributions include defeating the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945, discovering the 12 uses of dragon blood, and making great achievements in alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Harry patted his head, a little annoyed. If I remembered this information, we would have found out who Nicholas Flamel was a long time ago. William smiled indifferently. Actually, there's nothing wrong with this. When we were looking for Nicholas Flamel's identity, we read a lot of books and gained a lot of knowledge, didn't we? Hermione nodded. That's true. Listening to William and Hermione say this, Harry and Ron looked at each other. In this process, they didn't seem to gain much knowledge. Is it because the two of them were slacking off? Or was it because they were so busy looking for Nicholas Flamel when they were reading that they didn't read any other content at all? Forget it, don't think too much, they already knew who Nicholas Flamel was anyway. Do you think Snape's sudden desire to be the referee of the Quidditch match has anything to do with the Philosopher's Stone? Ron suddenly asked. It shouldn't matter, is there any connection between Quidditch and the Philosopher's Stone? Harry said hesitantly, and at the same time he looked at William and Hermione, hoping to get their answers. Hermione frowned and thought for a while, then shook her head and said, I don't think it matters. If he is a referee, he will be exposed to everyone's eyes and will have no time to do anything else. Hermione's words make sense. William said casually. They had a very bad impression of Snape, so they pushed all the bad things onto him, and William was too lazy to analyze it. Anyway, Harry and the others couldn't believe what he said about Snape, so let's not talk about it. Besides, Snape was not a good guy, and he didn't look like a role model at all. He just deserved it. William didn't pay attention to these things anymore, but fulfilled his promise and began to teach Neville magic. To be honest, Neville really didn't have any talent in magic and learning. He was unfortunate. When he was only 1 year old, his parents were kidnapped by Death Eaters and tortured to insanity by Bellatrix Lestrange with the Cruciatus curse. More than 10 years later, Neville was born in 1915 in China. He was a genius, and his father was a genius. He was a genius who was born in 1915 in China. He was a genius who was born in 1915 in China. He was a genius who was born in 1915 in China. He was a genius who was born in 1915 in China. For many years, Neville has been placed in St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. In order to make him forget the memory of his parents being tortured by Bella, his grandmother cast a forgetfulness spell on him, which also damaged his memory and he often forgot things afterwards. William felt that Neville was actually harmed by his grandmother in the name of love, and the forgetfulness spell can damage a person's mind. Neville has a bad memory, so it must be more difficult for him to study than others, commonly known as having no talent. William is still very patient when facing Neville. If he is impatient, he will probably be pissed off to death by Neville. Think about those parents who help their naughty children with their homework, and you can imagine the situation William is facing. The situation William is facing is even more serious. Neville, do you remember the spells and movements I just taught you? William explained it to Neville several times before asking. Neville nodded. William, I remember it. Well, then you can practice it next. William did not teach Neville any advanced magic, but a more common spell to break the spell, Curse Stop. The reason for teaching this spell first is to allow Neville to encounter the previous situation again without having to jump back with great effort. William cast a leg-locking spell on Neville and let him use Curse Stop to remove the magic on his body. Spell stop. Neville shouted loudly, and touched his wand to his legs. But there was no change at all, his legs were still stuck together. Stop curse. Neville did not give up, and cast another spell on his legs that were stuck together. But the result was still the same, his legs were still stuck together. Neville was already a little frustrated at this time, but he still did not give up, and then cast the stop curse 3 or 4 times. The result was still the same, he still couldn't remove the magic on his legs. Neville's voice was crying at this time. William, I'm really too stupid, I have studied very hard, but it just doesn't work. William has been observing Neville's casting process. He noticed that the wand in Neville's hand looked badly worn, not like a new wand. Neville, don't be discouraged. Can you tell me where you bought the wand in your hand? Neville sniffed and said, This is my father's wand. My grandmother gave it to me when I was going to Hogwarts to study. As expected, William's guess was correct. Neville, I think I know the reason. Your wand doesn't match you, so it's difficult for you to cast spells. Mr. Ollivander, the famous wand maker, said that every wand is unique. If you use a wand that belongs to another wizard, it will not have such a good effect. I think you should have a wand that truly belongs to you, which will be of great help to you. Hearing William's words, Neville stared at him and asked very seriously, William, are you telling the truth? Of course it's true, don't you feel that there is something incompatible between the wand and you? Neville said thoughtfully, It seems that it is indeed a bit inconvenient. William waved his hand. Okay, remember to buy your own wand in the future, let's make do with this for now. I'll explain the key points of the curse stop to you, and then you can try it again. William said as he used the curse stop to remove Neville's leg-locking curse. In this way, William would teach Neville some magic whenever he had free time. Sometimes Harry, Ron, and Seamus would also listen and learn a lot. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it's almost time for the game. As the game gets closer, Harry becomes more and more nervous. The other team members are not calm either. They are all excited at the thought of defeating Slytherin in the College Cup Championship. In nearly 7 years, no one has been able to defeat them. However, there is such a biased judge, can they succeed? Harry didn't know whether he was overthinking or if it was true. It seemed that he would run into Snape wherever he went. Sometimes, he even suspected that Snape was following him and wanted to catch him alone. Did Snape know that they had discovered the secret of the Philosopher's Stone? Harry didn't understand how Lee's good could know. He often had a terrible feeling that Snape could see through other people's minds. When he told William and Ron about this feeling, Ron didn't take it seriously. But William said with a serious face, "I'm afraid this is very possible. Have you heard of legilimency?" Harry and Ron shook their heads in confusion. "You know the sorting hat, right? It can read the thoughts of the person wearing it. Harry, you should have experienced this." "William, you mean, Snape, like the sorting hat, has the ability to read other people's minds?" Harry exclaimed. "That's right, Snape should know legilimency. People who know this magic can study other people's minds in certain situations and make correct interpretations." Hearing this, Harry and Ron's faces turned pale. "Doesn't that mean we have no secrets from Snape? William, now that you know this magic, is there any way to solve it? Or is there any magic that can resist it?" Harry and Ron asked hurriedly. "Yes, occlumency. Occlumency. That's right. Occlumency is a relatively obscure magic that can prevent the mind from being invaded by foreign forces. It's very useful." After hearing William's explanation, Harry and Ron looked at him eagerly. "William, do you know this magic?" William shrugged. "Of course, although this magic is relatively obscure, I happen to know it." In fact, William doesn't need occlumency. With the system, no one can read any thoughts from his brain. But with his master-level understanding of soul magic, he has a good attainment in both legilimency and occlumency. After hearing William's answer, Harry asked eagerly, "William, can you teach me occlumency? I can pay the tuition." No one would be indifferent if they knew that others could spy on their thoughts. Harry's reaction was very real. William nodded, then shook his head. "I can teach you, but don't hold your hopes too high. Occlumency is very difficult to learn and it's hard to learn in a short period of time. Learning occlumency requires not only strong willpower, but also a high degree of mental and emotional self-discipline. But Harry, your emotions are always too close to the surface, and it is difficult for you to suppress your emotions. This is not conducive to your learning of occlumency." William was not deliberately making things difficult for Harry. What he said was all true. Besides, Harry is only in the first grade now. Even though he is in the fifth grade in the original book, learning occlumency has had little effect. Harry was a little disappointed to hear William say this. He knew that William was right. But he still wanted to fight for it. "William, I want to try. Whether I succeed or not, I will try my best once." "Well, since you insist, I will teach you the art of brain occlumency, but you have to lend me the invisibility cloak for a few days to study. That will be your tuition fee." "No problem." Harry agreed immediately. Although the invisibility cloak was a relic of Harry's father, Harry was willing to lend it to William for a few days of research. After all, it was just a loan and he would not return it. Ron listened to the conversation between Harry and William, opened his mouth, but said nothing in the end. He wanted to learn it, but Harry paid the tuition and he had no tuition to pay, so he simply did not learn it. Anyway, no one would be idle to spy on his thoughts, and he was not an important person, so it didn't matter whether he learned it or not, Ron thought. Agby and agreed on the tuition fee. Harry couldn't wait to ask, "William, when will you start teaching me occlumency?" "Don't worry, the Quidditch match is tomorrow, and you still have to participate." William shook his head and said. Hearing this, Harry remembered that the match was tomorrow. He was just thinking about the brain block technique, and the shadow left by Snape was too deep. The eyes that could see through other people's thoughts made Harry feel creepy. "Okay, let's discuss this issue after I finish the game. By the way, William, I'll get the invisibility cloak for you now. You can study it at will as long as you don't damage it," Harry said, pulling out the invisibility cloak from under the bed and handing it to William. Harry still trusted William's character, and he didn't need the invisibility cloak for the time being. William took the invisibility cloak, patted Harry on the shoulder, nodded with a smile and said, "Don't worry, I promise to return you an intact invisibility cloak." Harry also smiled and said, "I believe in you, William." William was quite pleased with Harry's trust. He smiled and said, "Okay, go to bed early. You have a game tomorrow, so you should rest and recuperate today. Also, don't worry about Snape. If he dares to hurt you during the game, I will help you. Believe in my strength." Harry felt relieved after hearing William's words. Ron also agreed. I will help you, too, Harry. William, Ron, thank you. You're welcome, we're friends. The next afternoon, the Quidditch match started as scheduled, and all the teachers and students left the castle to watch the game. William, Hermione, and Ron came to the outside of the locker room to cheer Harry on. Harry, relax and don't worry about Snape. I will definitely keep you safe. Yes, Harry, even if you don't believe William, you have to believe Dumbledore. I saw he came to watch the game too. That's right, Snape won't do anything under Dumbledore's nose. William and the other two's comfort made Harry relax a lot. He put on his Quidditch robe, picked up his Nimbus 2000, and met up with the other players. William and the others also left the locker room and found a place to sit in the stands, next to Neville. Neville didn't understand why William and the others brought their wands to the stadium. So he asked William. You will understand in a moment. William said as he waved his wand. Suddenly a large amount of golden smoke emerged from the tip of the wand and gathered into a huge golden lion in the sky. Although the golden lion was made of smoke, it was condensed and did not disperse. It looked like a real lion, looking around with brilliance and majesty. This huge smoke lion immediately attracted the attention of the whole audience. The Gryffindors burst into huge cheers. Although the game had not started yet, it felt as if they had already won. As Gryffindor's opponent this time, the Hufflepuffs were a little distressed and envious. Before the game started, it would be strange for them to be happy after being suppressed by Gryffindor. As Gryffindor's old rivals, the Slytherins all curled their lips with disdain. The Ravenclaws, on the other hand, were amazed by this and looked at this place with curious eyes, wanting to know who was behind it. On the podium in the distance, Professor McGonagall had a look of relief. This magic was obviously transfiguration, and as the professor of transfiguration and the head of Gryffindor House, she would of course feel very relieved. Hermione glanced at the giant lion in the sky, and then asked William in a daze, William, didn't you say it was to guard against Snape? What are you doing now? Don't worry, it won't delay the work. William said with a relaxed look. At this time in the locker room, Wood pulled Harry aside. I don't mean to put pressure on you, Potter, but we need to catch the snitch now more than ever. We need to make a quick decision and not give Snape time to show excessive favoritism to Hufflepuff. Harry learned from William and the others that Dumbledore was also coming to watch the game, so he knew he was safe. At this moment, he felt relieved and nodded confidently, saying, Don't worry, Wood, I will do my best to catch the snitch as quickly as possible. Well, I hope so. The game started, and they lined up and walked towards the field. For some reason, maybe because Dumbledore was watching the game, Snape looked annoyed. Ron noticed this and said to William, I've never seen Snape look so grim. Look, they're leaving. Ouch. Someone poked Ron in the back of the head. It was Malfoy. Oh, sorry, Weasley, didn't see you there. Malfoy grinned at Crabbe and Goyle. I wonder how long Potter will be able to stay on his broomstick this time. Anyone want to take a bet? How about you, Weasley? Noisy. William snorted coldly. Before Malfoy could react, a tongue-locking throat sealing hit him. In an instant, Malfoy's tongue stuck to his upper palate. He grabbed his throat and choked. He couldn't speak, and could only hear a whimper. Goyle and Crabbe hurriedly supported Malfoy, turned around and ran away, not daring to say a word to William. This was not the first time William had taught them a lesson, but they never seemed to learn their lesson. Snape had just awarded a free throw to the Hufflepuff team for no reason. William was a little angry, so he took it out on Malfoy. Who made him buzz like a fly, so annoying. William even controlled the smoke lion in the sky and spit a puff of smoked spit at Snape. Harry circled the sky over the field like an eagle, looking for the golden snitch. Suddenly, Harry made a beautiful dive, and the audience exclaimed and cheered. William still recognized Harry's flying skills and felt that he was born to be a seeker. Hurry up, Harry! Ron shouted, jumping onto his seat. He saw Harry rushing straight towards Snape. In the air, Snape just turned around on his broomstick and saw a golden object whizzing past his ear, just a few inches away from him. Then, Harry stopped diving, raised his arms in victory, and the snitch was tightly held in his hand. The stands were boiling. This would be a new record. No one could remember in which game the snitch was caught so quickly. William. The game is over. Harry won. We won. Gryffindor is leading. Hermione screamed, jumping on her chair and hugging William tightly. William held Hermione in one hand and held the wand in the other, controlling the lion in the sky, running around the court, and finally exploding into fireworks all over the sky. Harry jumped off the broomstick a foot above the ground. He couldn't believe it. He succeeded. The game was over, and it lasted less than 5 minutes. Gryffindors rushed into the court. Snape landed on the court with a pale face and his lips tightly pursed. He spat on the ground angrily and looked very upset. A group of Gryffindors ran over, put Harry on their shoulders, and cheered. Ron couldn't squeeze in, he was jumping up and down on the periphery, and was arm in arm with Neville. William and Hermione were hugging each other, and no one thought there was anything wrong with it at this time. An hour later, William and the others had already returned to the castle. But Harry had just left the locker room, and he was going to return his Nimbus 2000 to the broom shed. He was happier than ever at this moment. He had finally done something that he was truly proud of. No one would ever say that he was just a person with a resounding name. Harry was quite narrow-minded, and he had always remembered what Snape said in the first potions class. At this moment, he felt that it was the best counterattack against Snape, and he felt that even the air at night had never been as fresh as it was now. So sweet. He walked across the wet grass and came to the broom shed. Harry leaned against the wooden door and looked up at Hogwarts, the windows glowing red in the setting sun. Gryffindor was ahead, he had succeeded, he had made Snape see. Speaking of Snape, a hooded figure quickly walked down the front steps of the castle, obviously not wanting to be seen, and headed straight for the Forbidden Forest. Harry watched, the joy of victory in his heart gradually fading. He recognized the figure's furtive gait. It was Snape. He was sneaking to the Forbidden Forest while others were having dinner. What was he trying to do? Harry jumped back on his broom and took off. He glided silently over the castle. Harry looked up into the sky and saw Snape running into the Forbidden Forest, so he followed. The trees in the Forbidden Forest were so dense that Harry couldn't see where Snape went. He could only circle, lower and lower, flying close to the treetops, and finally heard the sound of someone talking. He flew lightly and landed quietly on a towering beech tree. He climbed forward carefully along a branch, holding the flying broom tightly in his hand, and he wanted to look down through the leaves. Below, in a shadowy open space, stood Snape, but he was not alone. Quirrell was there too. Harry couldn't see the expression on his face, but he stuttered worse than ever. Harry listened attentively to what they were saying. "No, I don't know why you would choose to meet here, Severus. Oh, I don't think this is appropriate to be made public," Snape said in a cold voice. "After all, students are not supposed to know about the Philosopher's Stone." Harry leaned forward. Quirrell was muttering something. Snape interrupted him. "Did you figure out how to get past Hagrid's monster?" But, Severus, You don't want me to be your enemy, Quirrell," Snape said, taking a step closer to him. I don't know, no you. You know exactly what I mean." An owl hooted so loudly that Harry nearly fell out of the tree. He caught himself just in time to hear Snape say, "Your secret trick, I'm waiting." But, I don't, no. Snape interrupted him. "Very well, we'll talk again soon, when you've had time to think it over and decide who you'll serve." Snape covered his head with his cloak and strode out of the open space. It was almost completely dark, but Harry could still see Quirrell standing there motionless, like a sculpture. When Harry returned to the castle, Ron patted him on the back excitedly. "We won. You won. We won. Harry, everyone's waiting for you in the common room. We're having a celebration and Fred and George have stolen some cakes and stuff from the kitchen. By the way, Harry, where have you been? Why did you come back so late?" William asked curiously. "Let's not talk about this for now," Harry said breathlessly. "Let's find an empty room and listen to me." William and his 3 companions found an empty room. Harry turned around and closed the door only after he was sure that Peeves was not in the room. Then he told William and his companions what he had just seen and heard. Ron spoke first. "So our analysis is correct. That thing is the Philosopher's Stone. Snape wants to force Quirrell to help him get the stone. He asked Quirrell if he knew how to get past Lu Wei, and mentioned Quirrell's secret trick. I guess, besides Lu Wei, there are probably other mechanisms guarding the stone, probably a lot of magic and sorcery. Maybe Quirrell had cast some anti-dark magic spells that Snape needed to undo. Ron's analytical ability was good. If William hadn't known the plot, he would have probably analyzed it the same way. After all, what Snape and Quirrell said was too easy to be misunderstood. Moreover, Snape looked so strong, and Quirrell was stuttering and hesitant, and it was obvious that he was threatened. Hermione frowned and said, "You mean, the Philosopher's Stone is safe only when Quirrell can resist Snape?" Although William knew that Quirrell was Voldemort's man, and Voldemort was now parasitizing on the back of Quirrell's head. However, he had no evidence to prove this, so he remained silent and let Harry and the others guess wildly. Quirrell did look increasingly pale and thin in the following weeks, but he did not appear to be completely broken. Harry and the others thought that this was caused by Snape's constant pressure on Quirrell. Only William knew that it was because Voldemort consumed more and more of Quirrell's vitality that he became like this. Out of concern for the Philosopher's Stone, Harry and the others would put their ears to the door every time they passed the corridor on the 4th floor. They wanted to hear if Fluffy was still growling in there. Snape strode around the school all day long, and his temper was as bad as usual. This undoubtedly showed that the Philosopher's Stone was still safe. These days, every time Harry met Quirrell on the road, he would give him an encouraging smile. Ron also began to persuade others not to laugh at Quirrell's stuttering. Hermione, on the other hand, had more to worry about than the Philosopher's Stone. She had already started making a revision plan and had color-coded all her notes. Ron had even more to do, as he not only had to teach Harry occlumency but also had to research the invisibility cloak. Harry, learning occlumency is not easy. First you have to learn to eliminate distracting thoughts and control your mind. William, what should I do? Well, you should clear your mind. Don't think, don't remember, don't feel. Of course this is difficult to control. Saturday afternoon, William took Harry to an empty classroom and began to teach him to learn brain blocking. William took out his wand and said to Harry, "I will use legilimency to enter your mind in a moment. You try to use the method I taught you. Let's see how well you can resist it." Okay. Harry nodded in agreement. Then he began to do as William said, trying to clear his mind, not thinking, not remembering. "Are you ready? I'm going to start." Harry didn't say anything, just sat there blankly. Legitimate memory. William took action. The classroom swayed and disappeared in front of Harry's eyes. Pictures flashed through his mind like a movie. He could no longer see the things around him. When he was 5 years old, he watched Dudley riding on his new red bicycle, and his heart was filled with jealousy. When he was 9 years old, he was chased up a tree by the watchdog Lippy, and the Dursleys were laughing on the lawn. When he was 10 years old, he made the glass of the zoo disappear, and the Brazilian python ran out. When he was 11 years old, he was wearing the sorting hat and heard it say that he could go to Lesterland. William stopped legilimency somewhat helplessly, and Harry had no resistance at all. Harry broke away from these memories, and he asked a little disappointedly, "William, did you see everything? In some clips, you let me in too deep, there was no resistance at all." William shrugged. "But to be honest, your uncle's family is really not that good, it's really hard for you." Harry smiled and said nothing. William did not mention it again, but reminded Harry. "Harry, you have to let go of all your feelings, whether they are sad or happy. Only by eliminating any distracting thoughts can you be said to have touched the threshold of brain occlusion." Harry nodded, took a long deep breath, and then looked at William. "Let's do it again." "Okay, I count to 3, 1, 2, 3, legilimency." A huge three-headed dog roared at him madly. His parents waved to him in the magic mirror. Failed again, William looked at the pale Harry. "Harry, you showed me the memory you feared. If you were facing Snape, he would have the weapon to use against you. It seems that it is still difficult for you to let go of your feelings and distractions." Harry's face was no longer so pale. Hearing William say this, he felt very aggrieved. "William, I have tried hard to let go of my feelings and to eliminate distractions as much as possible, but I find it difficult to do so. Maybe you are right, I really don't have a talent for brain occlusion." Seeing that Harry was a little discouraged, William didn't say anything to him, but patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Harry, don't be discouraged. Brain occlumency is not something you should learn at this stage. Besides, it's your first time learning it, so it's normal that you can't do it well. Harry smiled bitterly and said, William, don't comfort me. You and I are about the same age, but you are already proficient in legilimency and occlumency, but I can hardly even get started. You are right, I just don't have the talent to learn brain occlumency. What else can William say? Harry really has no talent in brain occlumency. Well, let's stop here today, Harry, you can figure it out slowly. Next Saturday, we will continue to learn the brain block technique. What do you think, Harry? William asked Harry's opinion. After all, he had paid the tuition fee, so he should respect it. Harry also felt a little tired. Those memories just now were not good things. He was in a low mood now. Okay, I'll go back to the dormitory first. Will you come back with me, William? Just when Harry asked this question, William suddenly felt a strange atmosphere in the classroom. William was stunned for a moment, then said, Harry, you go back first. I have other things to do, so I won't go back with you. Okay, I'll go back first. Harry dragged his heavy steps and walked out of the classroom slowly. William did not get up and continued to sit on the chair. Suddenly, another figure appeared in the classroom where he was the only one. He was sitting not far to the left of William, as if he had always been there. He had silver hair and a beard, a pair of half-moon glasses on his face, and a long crooked nose. With this image, the only person in Hogwarts was Albus Dumbledore. William obviously guessed it, and there was no surprise on his face. Apart from Dumbledore and Snape, there was no one else who could pay so much attention to Harry. But with Snape's strength, it would be difficult for him to escape William's eyes, so Dumbledore was left. Obviously, William's idea was correct. Sir, peeping is not a good habit. William was not afraid of Dumbledore and could even tease him with words. On the one hand, it was because William's strength had greatly increased and he had the confidence. On the other hand, it was also because Dumbledore was a good person and would not hurt others for no reason, let alone a student. Sure enough, Dumbledore was not angry, but smiled and apologized to William. Oh, Mr. Cavendish, I'm so sorry, please forgive an old man's excessive curiosity. William did not push it any further and responded with a smile. Okay, sir, I forgive you, I wonder if your curiosity is satisfied. William was sure that Dumbledore wanted to ask him some questions. In this case, let's talk openly to avoid his suspicion. Mr. Cavendish, actually, I wanted to talk to you a long time ago. Dumbledore looked at the boy in front of him, his eyes full of curiosity and exploration. According to what he knew, the boy in front of him was excellent, very excellent. It can even be said that he is the best boy since the founding of Hogwarts. Even Voldemort, who is called the Dark Lord by others, or Dumbledore, the current headmaster of Hogwarts. They are far inferior to William at his age. Fighting with the three-headed dog, killing the troll in seconds, superb legilimency and brain occlumency. This is just what Dumbledore knows. Apart from this, what other skills does he have? Even Dumbledore doesn't know. But there is no doubt that even these 3 points have surprised Dumbledore. Sir, what do you want to talk about? William always had a faint smile on his face, without a trace of nervousness or hesitation. This kind of calmness made Dumbledore more interested in him. Dumbledore smiled and said, Hagrid told me that you, like him, are a person who loves magical animals. I do like magical creatures, but I don't love them. William told the truth. Dumbledore seemed very happy. I like your honesty, so I will be honest with you. Many years ago, Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts for raising dangerous magical animals, which resulted in a student being killed by a magical animal. Although I always felt that Hagrid was wrongly accused, the evidence pointed to him at the time and there was nothing I could do. So, Mr. Cavendish, I hope you can learn from this. William was still a little surprised to hear Dumbledore say this. It seemed that Dumbledore knew something, but he did not pursue William's question, but instead reminded William. After Dumbledore did this, William felt that he owed him a favor and had to find a way to repay it in the future. William did not refute Dumbledore, but said sincerely, Thank you, sir, for the reminder, I will learn from it. Dumbledore said with satisfaction, Then I'm relieved, I believe that with your strength, you should be able to control your pet. Another thing is, you and Hagrid are good friends, so don't be so violent towards his pet, after all, I borrowed it from Hagrid. William knew without thinking that Dumbledore was talking about the three-headed dog. But he only beat it once, and never went to find the three-headed dog again. So William said helplessly, "Sir, I was just trying to protect myself at the time, and I never saw it again after that." "Oh, is that so? Then consider it as my advance greeting. Don't be too violent when you meet it next time." After Dumbledore said that, what else could William say? He could only nod. Okay. The communication between William and Dumbledore ended here. Dumbledore left the classroom, and William still did not get up. Instead, he sat there thinking quietly. Dumbledore is such a shrewd man. Could it be that Dumbledore really just wanted to remind him today? Or did Dumbledore have other purposes that he didn't discover? After thinking about it, William still didn't figure out what other purposes Dumbledore had. Did he think too much? In fact, William really thought too much. Dumbledore did want to remind him. After all, if a genius student like William was expelled, it would be a loss for Hogwarts. In addition, Dumbledore also wanted to get to know William and see what kind of person he was. As for other purposes, Dumbledore didn't have any suspicion of William at all, because he felt that William and Harry were friends, and if Harry encountered any problems, William would help him. Even Harry could learn a lot from William, which would be very beneficial to him. Dumbledore didn't have any suspicion of William, because he couldn't see that kind of ambition in William. William's good friends and classmates, except for Hermione, were few, and they were all students without a big background. As for the professors in the school, William didn't try to please them deliberately. It can be said that apart from his interest in collecting herbs and magical animals, William seemed to have no interest in power at all. This is very different from the teenage Voldemort, Tom Riddle. When Tom Riddle was in school, he was apparently a good student with excellent academic performance. However, behind the scenes, he recruited people and gathered power, and formed a gang in the school with some classmates who fanatically followed him. But Tom did not regard them as friends, but as servants and tools. Tom was domineering, conceited, weird by nature, and kept to himself. Dumbledore always kept a close eye on him and was always on guard and suspicious of him. William thought about it for a long time, but still had no clue, so he didn't bother himself. When he returned to the Gryffindor common room, he saw Harry and Ron looked like they had lost hope in life. The reason was of course Hermione. She looked very anxious and kept nagging them to review. Ron couldn't help but said, "Hermione, the exam is still hundreds of years away." 10 weeks, Hermione retorted immediately, "Not hundreds of years. For Nicholas Flamel, it was just the blink of an eye. But we're not 600 years old, and anyway, why should you review? You already know everything." In response to Ron's reminder, Hermione shouted, "Why should I review? Are you crazy? Did you know that we have to pass these tests to get into the second grade? They are very important. I should have started reviewing them a month ago. I don't know what happened to me." Ron suddenly stopped talking in anger. William walked over and ruffled Hermione's hair. "You are too anxious, Hermione." Even William couldn't change Hermione's mind. "I can't help but feel anxious. We don't have much time left before the exam. I've just started reviewing. By the way, William, you are about to start reviewing. Although you are usually a good student, you can't slack off." William was a little helpless. He wanted to persuade Hermione, but he was urged to review by Hermione. Unfortunately, the teachers seemed to have the same idea as Hermione. They assigned a lot of homework. The Easter holiday was far from being as relaxing as Christmas. With Hermione reciting the 12 uses of dragon blood or practicing wand movements next to you, it was difficult for you to rest easily. William had to spend most of his free time with her in the library, and by the way, he also pulled Harry and Ron to be the scapegoat. Every time, the two of them sighed and yawned, trying hard to complete the heavy homework. On this day, the sky outside the library window was clear and bright, as blue as the color of forget-me-not flowers, and there was a breath of summer in the air. William looked out the window and couldn't help but be distracted. Suddenly he heard Ron say, "Hagrid, what are you doing in the library?" Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and support our channel.